Everybody, happy Saturday. Gosh, who was it? I think it was my wife that makes fun of me. She goes, "You realize you clap at the beginning of every video?" And I said, "No, I don't. I just did it, and I just caught myself. Dang it. I guess I do, at least some videos." But anyways, I haven't done an insurance video in a while. I've had vacation, and then real estate has just been extremely busy. We're in a growth phase for our team, which is fantastic, and that's been my big focus. Is basically real estate pays for me to do insurance, and this insurance stuff, how I'm doing it, and the whole thing is not profitable for me, but which is fine, right? It's not the goal to be profitable. It's a long-term play. Ideally it should be profitable, 2-3 years down the road. So I got to put my majority of my time into real estate because that's what pays for this, and so on and so forth. But hopefully here in a couple months I'll be able to put a big focus back on the insurance, as we're hiring some more agents and training and all that good stuff. So let's talk about some insurance stuff. What brought this video up was a situation. I'll say a lot of situations, but a situation that happened to me last night. Had an investor reach out wanting some quotes on some Airbnbs, like high price points, close to $1 million price point Airbnbs in Gatlinburg. Now, full disclosure, Airbnbs, short-term rentals, is not what I even focus on. I know little about them as far as the insurance goes, other than I know it's for sure more expensive. When we did our Airbnb short-term downtown before we turned to long-term, the insurance was quite a bit more to do an Airbnb for the short term. Is again, there's turnover, there's more risk, more people in and out for the carrier, so it's more expensive. So I had him reach out, and so I sent him over some quotes. And this person has a lot of assets for sure, but I don't think that they're very educated. And I replied back to him, asked him some more questions and stuff like that. And I don't know them, right? And they're not like a friend or something like that. Relative is a stranger. And they haven't replied back to me. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Because the quotes that I sent them, the cheapest that I could find, replied back and said, hey, here's so, and this happens, right? I'm not saying this is a one-off scenario. This does happen. It's like, hey, I found, people much, much cheaper. Like he said, significantly cheaper. And so I replied back and I said, well, hey, who is the carrier, right? Because if it's a carrier that I could get, great, because I don't focus on short-term rentals, so I don't know what I don't know. And I would love to be able to pick them up and, be able to offer, good insurance with somebody that is cheaper, right? That would be my goal, to have them as a carrier. But haven't replied back and also said, hey, can you send it over to me? I'd like to look at it just to see, what type of coverage you're getting. And odds are I probably won't hear back, right? But what I've realized I'll say my very limited insurance experience, and I go back and put myself in the shoes of even caring about insurance, and even on all of our assets and rental properties and stuff like that. And for the most part, we don't have debt other than our real estate. Like we use good debt in real estate. Other than that, we don't have debt. So we have arguably assets, and I want to protect those assets. But I didn't really know the ins and outs. I didn't really understand coverages. I didn't really understand what things happen. So in doing this insurance company, I made it kind of like my goal. It's kind of like real estate, right? I want to know why behind everything. I want to understand everything. I want to be the expert. I want, when somebody calls me and they have a weird question, situation in insurance and how this works, I want to be able to answer it to them. Now, can I do that on everything? No. Probably will never be able to. Insurance is like real estate, right? There's always one-off and weird situations. But for the most part, I feel very confident to have a very educated conversation about how insurance works, what is good proper coverage, what type of coverage does somebody need based on their assets and situations. I feel confident about that. But what I've realized when I'm quoting people, most people don't give a shit. They don't care. They don't want to know. And here I am, I'm trying to ask questions. I'm trying to educate them. Hey, do you know what type of coverage this is? Do you know what type of coverage that is? Do you want low coverage for the cheapest price? Do you want medium coverage that covers you like, I think they say like on average, it's like 98% of all, accidents in a vehicle, right? This would cover you if there obviously was an accident. Or do you have a lot of assets, meaning you have like, big time retirement, you have hundreds of thousands of dollars, or millions of dollars in assets, right? Insurance is there to protect you, right? I was listening to a video the other day and I've heard this term before, right? Insurance is a necessary evil, right? It's not a scam, but it damn sure feels like a scam. Because you get penalized for using it, your rates go up, or carriers don't want to insure you. And it's just, but you also like gotta have it, right? You're protecting it, and that's what people have to look at. You're protecting your assets. If I was right out of college, right, and I had debt, I don't even know what my student loans were right out of college, but I had no money. I had credit card debt, I had student loan debt, I had no money, I had no nothing, I had no assets, nothing. So I probably didn't need to have anything more than just like a very low basic coverage, because what is somebody going to really sue me for? Other than, and I know there's a lot of things, and I don't know enough about it to really go down the rabbit hole, but talk about future earnings, right? There is an argument you can be sued for future earnings, but if you don't have a job, if you're a doctor, that's probably a little different, right? But me, little job, didn't really know what I was doing in the future. What are you going to sue me for future earnings? Like, you're not really getting much. So arguably, yeah, I could have went to the cheaper coverage. And then let's say kind of halfway through my life, I had things paid off, had a vehicle, had some money in the bank account. Sure, it probably makes more sense now to get that probably medium coverage levels, right? And again, I don't want to get into numbers just because it'll confuse people. So I'm just going to kind of do it by like low, medium, and high. So it probably makes sense, right? Because I have some assets to protect, and really the difference in pricing, guys, I see this all, the difference in pricing from like low coverage to medium coverage, is so minor. We're talking maybe between like $100 on a cheaper policy to a $500 on like, a very expensive policy a year. $100 to $500 a year to jump up like from $50,000 in coverage to $300,000 in coverage. So literally you're paying $100 to $500 a year to gain like usually like somewhere between $100 to $200,000 more in coverage. And being on this side of it and knowing crazy things happen and being a part of, especially with our rental properties, a couple of different situations, it makes sense to do that when you have assets to protect. And then there's, of course, very high level coverage, which is what I would recommend somebody with tremendous assets, hundreds of thousands of dollars in liquid and, retirements and all that stuff and future earnings. And then as well as, I'm not going to talk about this, but then you have the umbrella that kind of go over top of that and get millions of dollars for cheaper. But it shocks me that people, that people just don't care. They don't want to care. They don't know. And it's, hey, Stephen, give me some quotes. And I'm happy to do it. If somebody said, Stephen, give me your cheapest quote possible, it's all I want, bam, done. Right? But there's just something in me that feels the need to educate people, because here's the scenario that will happen eventually. Somebody's going to do this to me, and I'm going to give them the cheapest, I don't want to say crappy insurance, that's not the right word, but the cheapest insurance possible, so they're covered, right, and they meet all the requirements. Something's going to happen, they're going to wreck, and that insurance isn't going to cover jack crap. And they're going to wind up in a potential lawsuit of getting sued, and they're going to be like, Steven, I thought I had insurance. Yeah, you had insurance. Yeah, but it only covered you wanted the cheapest possible, right? So I gave you the cheapest possible, which is covering you for very little amounts of money, if there's injuries and vehicles getting totaled out and stuff like that. As also, guys, if you drive through Knoxville, right here in Knoxville, look at all the attorneys on the billboards. Those attorneys are on there, right? If you've ever been in a wreck, turn your wreck into a check, and all the commercials and everywhere you go. anytime you even fender bend somebody, those attorneys want to sue the insurance companies. And if you only have a little bit amount, and that person all of a sudden, due to your fender bump, all of a sudden ends up with these neck problems and all this stuff, right? Which is what's going to happen. And doctors are in on this, getting paid under the table to give false reports in order to get more money for these people. This happens. Watch American Greed. They're going to end up suing you because the insurance company's only liable for that minimum coverage that you paid them for. They can't sue the insurance company because, again, the insurance company wasn't at fault here. You paid the insurance company to have, hey, listen, here's a little bit of money for even more protection, but that protection has a limit. And that's where I'm winding up, because I want to educate people. I want to do all that. People don't care. And therefore, a lot of times they're like, oh, well, I found a policy over here for much cheaper. Well, what happened, circling back to this Airbnb situation, and this is a hack that I know, and I'm going to do more research in this, right? Because I put 2 and 2 together. I was like, how the heck is somebody so much cheaper on an Airbnb policy? And maybe there's just a carrier out there that just, it is that. Maybe that's true. But I know what's happening. And that is somebody going to say, hey, listen, I want the cheapest quote possible, to get my Airbnb covered, right? So they're gutting the policy. I can gut a policy. I can get your policy cheaper. But just know, it is shit coverage. Like, you're literally almost paying for insurance at that point for, little to no reason. Because odds are, if anything happens, that is not covering what the accident's going to be, and you're getting sued anyways. So what happens is, a lot of times these Airbnbs, these insurance people, especially what I would call, if you call into a call center, right? So my name is my insurance company, right? That's important to me. Losing my license, getting fined, getting sued because my name, that to me is, I'm going to protect myself versus making a couple extra $100, maybe even $1,000 on the policy. Well, actually, not $1,000. I'll explain how the money works. I've done several videos on that. But they put the Airbnbs as second, third homes, especially if they're bought in personal names. Well, I can go ahead and tell you, if you're buying $1 million Airbnb in your personal name, you don't know what you're doing, right? Because that means that's an asset in your name, which means that even if you get in a car wreck, guess what? I can sue you. I can come after your asset, which that $1 million Airbnb is your name. That should be in an LLC. So that you're already uneducated there. That's huge. Get that out of you. Get that in an LLC immediately, because that is an asset that is in your name. And arguably, like how we have our same thing. Our rental properties are in LLCs. Vehicles are paid for by the business. And other than our personal home, we don't really have anything that's in our name, right? And that's by design. So, but what happens is these insurance people, they will call it second, third homes, because arguably it is. But these insurance companies, they find out, and it's a, an obvious situation. I'm sure there's fine print. They're going to get out of that, right? And you're going to end up in a fire, losing an $800,000 house, and that insurance company's going to start investigating. They're going to realize, oh man, you bought this and you put this down as a second home. And you're going to say, oh no, I just wanted insurance coverage. Then you're going to go to the insurance company, and they're going to say, well, hey, you put this second home. This was clearly not a second home. It's clearly an investment Airbnb. And the insurance company is going to say, hey, well, that's what the person told me. So then you knowingly misled the insurance company. And again, you're getting a whole mess. I don't know how that would all break down, how that would settle out. I don't know. I'm not an attorney, don't interpret law very well anyways. But that's the situation. I told him, I was like, I'm not doing that. It's just not worth it. And here's the difference, right? And it's where a lot of people think that, and I understand, if I was in your shoes, I would probably think that too. So it's a hard balance for me. But a lot of people think that, hey, he's trying to upsell me, medium coverage from the cheap coverage because, and that policy is $300 more a year. Here's the thing. Honestly, let me break down the numbers to you. I'm on, as a commission, I'm probably going to get somewhere between 10 and 15% of that policy based on the carrier. They all pay a little different. So I'm going to get somewhere between 10 and 15% of that. $300 more is going to pay me, what, $30 to $45, right? $30 to $45 more. Actually, when I look at return on my time, I would make more money probably not explaining how insurance works and asking you which one do you want and putting in multiple numbers to get multiple quotes versus just giving you the cheapest possible, gutting out the policy and being like, yeah, hey man, I saved you $400 on your policy that you had previously, right? Because a lot of times with my peers that have direct appointments, I can go in there and gut that policy and figure out how to save you money. It's shit coverage. But I don't have it in me to do it, and I feel like that sells, right? I'm not in this for sales. I'm in this for relationship. And ultimately, the other thing, right? I've had people where I get a quote that's really close to what they have, even potentially maybe $100 more. And I realize hey, it's your decision. If you want to do it, we can do it. I understand it's a pain to switch insurance. Trust me, I relate. I'm never going to get mad at somebody, but there's a difference of when and if something does happen, you're going to be able to call me and my team. And now, is there some sort of magic wand I'm going to have and say, oh yeah, we'll be able to make this, you collect your money, or this not to be a painful process of using insurance? No, it's still going to suck. It's still going to take a long time, but I will be there to help. I will be there to assist. They will answer my phone call. Whereas if you have let's just say where you don't have an agent relationship with your insurance, you're calling the 800 number, right? And you call that 800 number, you're going to talk to John, and John's going to say, yeah, sure, here, we're going to start a claim for you. All right, we'll be back in touch in 2 weeks when we assign an adjuster to your claim. And you're going to be like, what the heck do I do? My car's totaled. Like what's going on? Like, I would be able to then kind of assist, help, make more phone calls for you, figure out, temporary solutions for you, whereas you're just kind of stuck if you don't have that. And so it's a matter of, right, is it worth it to switch it? Is it worth it to maybe pay that extra $100, $200 more to have, like, arguably what I would say is a customer service, or somebody there that's saying, hey, we reached out, still not having, I'm reaching out every day trying to find somebody, potentially, right? That's something you got to ask yourself. And everybody's different. But it's never going to be a phone call I have. Well, hey, listen, I was able to, find a policy that's very similar to yours. It's $100 more, and you get me. Do you want to pay? Like, that's not a conversation I'm going to have with somebody, because I'm just not. That's salesy. That's crap. I don't like it. But that's how it would break down, right? Do you want somebody in your corner if and when something does happen versus not? And that's a decision you make. But I just want to kind of almost more of like a rant about it. As people, you really need to educate. There's YouTube videos out there. I got to get back into making content and explaining this on my own videos. I really do. And just, again, time is not on my side right now. But that is the goal, is to start making more videos explaining that, what type of coverage. But ultimately, like, when you're getting insurance, it should be a conversation. It shouldn't be fill out information, get the quote, sign, get the quote, move on, right? And I can do that. But I don't want to do that. I want to have a conversation. Hey, what are we trying to protect here? What type of coverage you need? That way I can say, okay, here's the coverage that's probably going to be best for you, right? And there you go. So anyways, we always, can't even talk, word vomit. If you have questions on insurance, obviously I do real estate as well, questions on real estate, always feel free to reach out. Happy to help. Happy to look at your policy. Had a lady, even my client, my real estate client, buying a house, weird house situation. I couldn't find any carriers that really wanted the business because of the age of the home. And so I helped her shop, and she found a quote, and I said, hey, send it over to me. I'll let you know if it's good coverage. Send it over to me. One of the quotes was crappy coverage, crappy price. I said, no, keep shopping. One of the coverage she sent me was good price, good coverage. I said, hey, yep, that's the one you go with. Again, I spent time doing that because I care. I didn't make no money off that, but it's right by the client. And again, if you help enough people, right, the money comes.